Have you ever stopped to think about the power of your words? What if one careless sentence could shape your child's self-esteem for years to come? As fathers, or future fathers, are we building our children up, or unknowingly tearing them down? If you care about becoming a more thoughtful, intentional parent, if you're on a journey of self-improvement guided by wisdom and clarity, then this video is for you. Make sure to subscribe for more insight on how ancient philosophy, especially Stoicism, can sharpen the way you live, lead, and love. Words are not just sounds, they're tools. Tools that can build confidence or shatter self-worth. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we can't always control the world, but we can control how we respond to it. That includes how we speak to our children. Here are 7 common phrases that an intelligent father avoids, along with wiser, more intentional alternatives that help raise stronger, more resilient human beings. 1. Because I said so. It's a phrase many parents have used at some point, often in moments of fatigue or frustration. The day is long, your patience is short, and your child is once again questioning your instructions. Because I said so feels like a shortcut to getting things done. But what it saves in time, it costs in opportunity. Stoic philosophy reminds us that reason is one of our greatest human gifts, and to deprive our children of understanding why is to deprive them of that gift. In Stoicism, reasoning is not only a method of personal mastery, but a way to engage the world with clarity and purpose. Epictetus often stressed that our ability to reason is what sets us apart. When we default to authority without explanation, we inadvertently teach children that power, not understanding, is what drives decisions. That's not a lesson we want to impart. Instead of shutting the conversation down, we can take a breath and explain the why. This may take more time in the moment, but it pays dividends in the long run. A child who learns the reasons behind actions becomes a thinker, not just a follower. For example, saying, "I need you to brush your teeth," because keeping them clean helps avoid cavities and pain, provides clarity. It shows respect for their mind and nurtures their capacity to reason. Children are naturally curious. Their endless questions, though sometimes exhausting, are a sign of a developing intellect. When we say, "because I said so," we discourage curiosity. Worse, we may begin to condition obedience without understanding. This kind of automatic compliance doesn't prepare them for a life where they'll need to think critically, make their own decisions, and evaluate consequences. Stoic parenting is not about control. It's about guiding children toward internal discipline and clarity. When a child knows why something matters, they are far more likely to engage with it sincerely. Saying something like, "Here's why I'm asking you to do this, it matters," invites collaboration rather than resistance. It shows them that your authority isn't arbitrary, but rooted in care, reason, and thoughtfulness. Over time, this approach builds trust. Your child will learn that your rules are not simply about dominance, but about values. It also models the kind of communication they will need as adults, clear, respectful, and rooted in principle. As the Stoics believed, wisdom is not merely knowledge, it is knowledge applied with integrity. By teaching children not just what to do, but why, it matters. We raise not just obedient children, but thoughtful and principled individuals. 2. Stop crying. Be tough. We've all been there. Your child is crying over what seems like a small thing, and your instinct is to make it stop. Maybe it's discomfort with emotion, maybe it's social pressure, or maybe it's just fatigue. But in that moment you might say, "Stop crying, be tough." Though it may feel like a protective command, it teaches the wrong lesson. Stoicism does not teach us to suppress emotion, it teaches us to understand and respond to it. There's a common misunderstanding that Stoics were emotionally numb or cold. In truth, they acknowledged emotions but sought to master their reactions through wisdom and perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Emotions are not the problem, they're the path. When you tell a child to stop crying, you send the message that emotions are dangerous or shameful. Over time, this can train them to hide their feelings rather than face them. This doesn't build strength, it builds fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of being seen, fear of their own inner world. Instead, invite the emotion in. Sit with your child. Say, "It's okay to cry. Let's talk about what's going on." This kind of approach doesn't weaken them. It strengthens their capacity to understand, process, and regulate what they're feeling. You're showing them that emotions are part of the human experience, not enemies to be crushed, but signals to be read. A child who learns to feel safely learns to heal safely. They grow up able to connect, to empathize, and to support others. Emotional intelligence begins when we acknowledge feelings, not when we silence them. Stoic wisdom teaches us to examine what is within our control. A child's emotions may not be within your control, but how you respond to them is. Show them that it's possible to feel deeply and still move forward. Let them know that crying doesn't make them weak. It means they care, they're human, and they're learning. True toughness is not the absence of emotion. It's the ability to navigate emotion without being consumed by it. That's a skill your child will carry with them their whole life. 3. You never do anything right. In moments of frustration, it's easy to say things we don't mean. Maybe your child just broke something important. Maybe they forgot their homework again. The words come quickly. You never do anything right. But this kind of statement doesn't correct behavior, it wounds identity. Stoicism teaches us to respond with intention, not reaction. This phrase is pure reaction, and its damage can be lasting. Rather than pointing to a specific action, it labels the child's entire character. It tells them they are inherently flawed, incapable, and hopeless. That is not the truth, and it certainly doesn't help them improve. The Stoics believed in progress over perfection. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." A child cannot master themselves if they are convinced they're broken from the start. They need guidance, not judgment. They need direction, not condemnation. A better way is to separate the behavior from the person. Say, "That didn't go well. Let's figure out how to fix it together." This communicates two powerful messages. First, that mistakes are part of learning, and second, that they're not alone in fixing them. Children are not mini adults. Their brains are still developing. They forget, they fumble, they mess up. Your role is not to make them feel ashamed of that. It's to help them learn from it. When you shift from criticism to collaboration, you become their partner in growth rather than their critic. Think about what message you want to leave behind in those difficult moments. Do you want your child to believe they're a failure? Or do you want them to see mistakes as stepping stones toward wisdom? The Stoic parent chooses the latter. They teach their children that character is built one decision at a time, not through fear, but through clarity, guidance, and compassion. 4. You're just like it slips out so easily. Maybe your child does something that reminds you of your ex-partner, a sibling, or even yourself. The phrase comes out before you think, "You're just like your mother," or "You're just like your brother." Sometimes it's said in a moment of praise, other times in a moment of frustration, but in either case, what seems like a harmless observation can land heavily on a developing identity. The Stoics taught us that one of the most important tasks in life is to understand who we truly are, independent of external labels. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself not to be distracted by the actions or opinions of others, but to return to his own values. In parenting, this same wisdom applies. Our role is not to assign identity, but to help our children discover it. When we say you're just like you're, we are doing more than commenting. We are comparing. Whether the comparison is meant positively or negatively, it can place a child into a mold they didn't ask for. It frames their behavior through the lens of someone else's character, reducing their complexity to a single trait, memory, or association. This short-circuits their growth and can lead them to either rebel against or overly conform to the identity you've imposed. The damage of comparison. Negative comparisons are particularly harmful. When a child hears, "You're just like your father," and it's said with anger or disappointment, the child absorbs that judgment as a reflection of themselves. Even if they don't fully understand the family history, they start to associate their worth with someone else's shortcomings. They might think, if he was a failure and I'm just like him, then I must be a failure too. This is not a foundation for growth. It's a script of self-doubt. It teaches children that their behavior isn't something they can control or improve, but something predetermined and inherited. That idea is profoundly un-Stoic. The Stoics believed in the power of individual agency. We may not control what we're born into, but we always control how we respond. Positive comparisons can also be subtly damaging. Telling a child, "You're so smart, just like your sister," may seem like encouragement, but it can backfire. Now the child feels pressure to live up to that sibling's example. If they stumble, they may feel like they've failed not just themselves, but the identity you handed them. It can also breed sibling rivalry or a sense of inadequacy if they feel they'll never measure up. The Stoic alternative: celebrate the individual. The Stoic approach to parenting is about seeing things clearly and responding wisely. That includes seeing your child not as an extension of someone else, but as their own person, unique, evolving, and full of possibility. Your child deserves the freedom to define themselves without being chained to the reputations of others. Instead of reaching for comparison, reach for observation. Focus on what is present in your child, not what reminds you of the past. If your child shows perseverance, say, "I see how hard you're working on this, that's impressive." If they show kindness, acknowledge it. That was thoughtful of you to include your friend. These comments affirm what they are doing, rather than who they are supposedly becoming like. Try saying, "I see your strength in this. Let's build on it." This statement does three powerful things. It affirms the child's identity, encourages development, and invites collaboration. It moves you out of judgment and into mentorship. Building confidence through ownership. Children build confidence when they see themselves making choices and improving through effort. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control: our actions, thoughts, and responses. When a child hears that their strengths and weaknesses are theirs to shape, they feel empowered. For example, if your child handles a difficult situation calmly, you might say, "You showed real patience just now." That gives them ownership of the virtue. If you had said, "You're calm just like your aunt," the focus shifts away from their agency and onto someone else's identity. One builds confidence from within. The other makes it conditional on comparison. Your child is not your reflection. Of the great Stoic reminders is that we don't control other people, not even our children. They are not mirrors meant to reflect us. They are not canvases meant to repaint our past. They are individuals with their own path to walk. As parents, we may be tempted to live vicariously through our children or to correct our past mistakes through them, but this burdens the child with expectations they never chose. Stoic parenting is about humility, recognizing that our children will become who they are meant to be, not who we wish they were. Even when we see aspects of ourselves in our children, our temper, our wit, our ambition, It's important to remember that those traits don't define them. They may have similarities, but they are not copies. They have the right to shape how those traits are expressed in their own lives. Modeling, acceptance, and integrity. Children learn not just from what we say, but how we live. If we want them to accept themselves, we must accept them. If we want them to be proud of who they are, we must treat their uniqueness with respect. This means refraining from labels, comparisons, and stereotypes, even subtle ones. Show them what it looks like to live with integrity, to be honest, fair, and self-reflective. When they see that you value character over comparison, they'll begin to do the same. Raise originals, not echoes. You're just like your may seem like a small phrase, but it carries the weight of identity. The Stoic parent knows that every word shapes the soul. We are not here to define our children. We are here to guide them in discovering who they already are. Celebrate their individuality, speak to their effort, encourage their progress. In doing so, you raise a child who is not a shadow of someone else, but a light all their own. 5. I don't have time right now. We all live in a fast-paced world filled with responsibilities and distractions. Jobs, bills, errands, screens, deadlines. Modern life demands constant attention. In this whirlwind, it becomes easy to brush off our children with a phrase like, "I don't have time right now." It's a statement that seems harmless, even truthful. But in the eyes and hearts of our children, it echoes differently. It doesn't just mean you're occupied. It can translate into, "You're not important enough." Stoic philosophy urges us to consider the value of our time and how we use it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." The Stoics knew that time is not promised. Therefore, how we spend each moment is a reflection of what truly matters to us. If we constantly tell our children we're too busy for them, what message are we sending about our priorities? Children do not yet have the capacity to contextualize adult busyness. When they approach us with enthusiasm, a drawing they made, a story they want to tell, a question about the world, they are extending an invitation into their inner world. When they are met with a distracted, "I don't have time," that invitation is declined. Over time, the repetition of this message can erode their sense of self-worth. They may internalize the idea that their voice, their curiosity, and their presence are secondary to other things. Of course, we cannot always drop everything on demand. Responsibilities do not vanish simply because our children want our attention. However, there is a way to honor our obligations while still validating our children's needs. Instead of abruptly dismissing them, try saying, "I'm finishing something important right now, but I want to hear what you have to say in 10 minutes. You matter." This does two things. It communicates that you are genuinely busy, and it reassures them that they are valued. It sets a boundary without making them feel like a burden. The Stoics prized presence and mindfulness. Seneca once warned against frittering away time on trivial pursuits while neglecting what's most important. Children are not trivial. They are not interruptions. They are central to a parent's legacy, character, and purpose. Even 5 minutes of focused, undistracted attention can build a bridge of trust and affection that lasts for years. So when you're tempted to say, "I don't have time right now," pause and reflect. Could you give 2 minutes instead of 0? Could you acknowledge your child's effort with genuine interest and then return to your task? Presence, even in small doses, makes a lasting impact. Time spent with a child isn't just about quantity, it's about quality. 10 minutes of undivided attention is far more nourishing than an hour of distracted scrolling or half-listening. Your child will remember that you knelt down, looked them in the eye, and really listened. That brief but meaningful presence communicates, love, security, and value far more than any grand gesture. In the Stoic view, we must always be examining what is within our control. While we may not control the demands placed upon us, we can control how we respond to our children in those moments. We can choose words that foster connection instead of distance. We can give attention rather than excuses. 6. You should be more like. One of the most common yet damaging phrases a child can hear is, "You should be more like your sibling," or "Why can't you be more like so-and-so?" This type of comparison, while often intended to motivate, actually delivers a deeper and more painful message. Who you are isn't enough. Children are uniquely themselves, complex, imperfect, and growing. When adults compare them to others, they aren't just offering a critique, they're measuring them against a standard that isn't their own. It implies that someone else's personality, behavior, or achievement is preferable to theirs. This message seeds insecurity and can create lasting wounds in self-esteem. Stoic philosophy urges us to see individuals as they are, not as we wish they would be. Epictetus taught that every person has a distinct nature and that our role is not to control others, but to guide them according to their own paths. Intelligent parenting, therefore, isn't about sculpting a child into an idealized version of someone else. It's about cultivating the virtues and strengths already present within them. When you say, "You should be more like," you're doing more than offering feedback. You're suggesting that who they are inherently falls short. You are, intentionally or not, encouraging them to abandon parts of themselves to seek approval. Over time, this chips away at authenticity. The child may become anxious, insecure, or excessively self-critical, believing that love or acceptance is conditional upon mimicking someone else. A more constructive approach is to affirm their potential rather than highlighting their deficits. Say, "I see so much potential in you. Let's explore what you're capable of." This invites collaboration and growth without damaging identity. It shifts the focus from comparison to development. It encourages the child to reflect on who they are and what they can become, not who they must copy. Children blossom under encouragement, not competition. While healthy role models are valuable, they should be presented as sources of inspiration, not benchmarks to be equaled. Instead of saying, "Look how organized your brother is," say, "Let's find a system that works for you." Instead of, "She always gets A's," try, "What's one step you can take to improve your studying?" The Stoics believed in fostering self-mastery and virtue, not conformity. The goal is not to erase differences, but to nurture resilience, wisdom, and inner strength. When we respect the individuality of our children, we create a space where they can thrive without fear of judgment. 7. I'm disappointed in you. Few phrases wound deeper or linger longer than "I'm disappointed in you." It's a statement heavy with shame, suggesting not just that the child did something wrong, but that they themselves are wrong. This phrase targets identity instead of behavior. And for a child whose sense of self is still forming, it can be devastating. The Stoics teach us to separate what someone does from who they are. When someone acts poorly, Stoics don't dwell in emotional condemnation. They assess the action and consider what can be learned. Seneca advised approaching others with reason, not wrath. When a child makes a mistake, the opportunity lies in teaching, not shaming. When you say, "I'm disappointed in you," the child hears, "Your failure has reduced your worth in my eyes." It shifts the focus from correcting a behavior to condemning a person. Over time, this breeds guilt, avoidance, and sometimes even rebellion. Instead of learning how to improve, the child may withdraw, trying to protect themselves from emotional harm. A better way forward is to focus on accountability and growth. You can say, that choice didn't reflect your best self. How can you make it right? This reframes the mistake as a learning moment. It acknowledges the error without diminishing the person. It communicates, I believe in you. You're capable of doing better. Accountability without shame is powerful. It gives the child a chance to reflect, to repair, and to rise. It builds character, not resentment. Being a Stoic parent means guiding with clarity, not condemnation. It means seeing every misstep as a path toward virtue. When a child feels safe to admit their mistakes, they develop integrity. When they are met with judgment, they learn to hide. So the next time you're tempted to say, I'm disappointed in you, pause. Ask yourself, am I speaking from emotion or principle? Can I redirect this moment toward growth rather than guilt? Your words can either burden or build. An intelligent father doesn't have to be perfect. He just has to be present, thoughtful, and willing to grow. Stoicism teaches us that self-control and reflection are the path to strength. Parenting is no exception. Speak with intention. Lead with wisdom. And always remember, your words become their inner voice. If this resonated with you, share it with another father, brother, or mentor who's walking the same path. And don't forget to subscribe, because we're building a community of men committed to living and leading with purpose. Ready to take that next step in your own self-mastery? Let's keep growing together.